Today I finished 4th place out of 149 players in a deuce to 7 triple draw lowball poker tournament on PokerStars. This is actually my second top 4 finish in a row, and I've won this tournament in the past, so I'm gonna explain my strategy for anyone new to the game and share all of the hands that I played throughout the tournament. The reason why I'm sharing this particular tournament is because I make a really exciting comeback near the end. When there are 20 players left, you'll see there's a moment where I fall down to 300 chips and I manage to kind of claw my way back into the game and end up finishing a lot better than I was supposed to. It's pretty crazy, and I think it'll be fun to share. But I'm going to start from the beginning. First of all, I'll quickly explain the rules. This is a game where the goal is to make the worst poker hand that you can. In this case, the worst possible hand that you could make is 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, because those are the 5 lowest cards that don't make a straight. You get 3 attempts to draw or replace cards from your hand in order to make the worst hand possible. And there's a round of betting before the first draw and after each of the 3 draws. The last unique thing about this game is that there's limit betting, which means you can only bet a predetermined amount based on how long the tournament's been running. Unlike Texas Hold'em, where you're maybe used to being able to bet whatever you want. In this game, there's limit betting. Usually the winning hand in this game is an 8 high or 7 high hand. So my strategy is generally to play hands that have at least 3 different low cards where I have a chance to make an 8 high or 7 high hand. However, notice I folded an 8-6-4 combo right there. Generally, I'm more cautious about playing for the 8 high hands. You can see that I've got 4 opponents playing this hand, and generally I feel like the people in this tournament are playing more hands than they should be. So, I am going to fold some 8 high combos a little bit more often than I normally would to kind of adjust to the higher activity of my opponents. This is another case where I'm going to fold 3 low cards to an 8. In this case, I was under the gun, so I'm going to be a little bit more tight in that situation too. This is going to be the first hand that I end up winning. I've got Jack 9, 7, 7, 2, and as I mentioned before, I normally try to make an 8 high or 7 high hand, so in this case I would keep 7, 2 and draw the other 3. And I got lucky that no one raised, so I get to see this draw for free. And I do improve a little bit. I get a 4. But I'm also noticing that the other players all drew less cards than I did. And usually, if players draw less than me, then I play more passively, even when it's a good draw. And if I'm the one that draws less, then usually I play more aggressively. But in this case, everyone checks, and I discard 2, and I get a 3, which makes it even better. But I'm still not confident that I have the best hand, because there was another guy who just drew 1, so I'm going to check it again. And this time I will throw away the ace. And I get a 10. Now, normally, as I said, the winning hand is an 8 high or 7 high hand, so this is a hand where I might win sometimes if everyone else missed their draws, but it's not strong enough for me to bet. I'm going to just check and hope for the best. And in this case, it does turn out to be the best hand, so I win my first hand, which is a nice pickup. This is a very strong hand because I have 4 low cards to a 7 high hand already. So I'm definitely going to play this aggressively. I raise and they both call. I'm just going to draw the queen. And I get a 4, so I immediately make my 7 high hand which is really strong in this game. So I'm going to raise it up again. J stands pat, so I expect him to probably have an 8 high or 7 high hand, but it's much more likely he has an 8 high hand. So I'm going to continue playing it aggressively and hope that he keeps calling with something worse. He stands pat again. He draws one. I'm going to stand pat again and just continue firing. And that is a huge pickup for me. I'm now in 8th place out of 43. Now I have 8-8-7-3-2, and someone raises. This hand is definitely strong enough that I can call 200 more. I think a lot of people would draw one card and go for an 8 high hand, but I'm actually going to discard both 8s and go for a 7 high instead. I'd rather go for something a little stronger and feel confident in my hand so I can bet more aggressively. In this case, I'm going to call because I'm getting a great price. I draw and I get a 5, and they both draw 2 as well. Because we all drew the same amount, I'm going to be more aggressive since I know my hand improved, and I don't necessarily know that it improved from my opponents. And he raises. Now I'm definitely getting the right price to call since it's only 400 more to win 3,800, and I could win with a 4 or 6 or 8. In this case, I'm choosing to put him all in because I don't want him to have 100 left over in case he loses. I want to get him in for all of it so I have the chance to knock him out, which is what I do here because I make the best possible hand. Now I've got Jack 10 7 7 6 in the big blind, which is a pretty bad hand, but I'm actually going to get to see the draw for free because Carlo limps in. This time I'm just going to keep the 7 6. I draw 3. I get an 8, which does improve my hand a little bit, although I'm wary because there's straight potential. I'm going to draw 2. And she draws less than me on this one too, so I'm going to check it. And when she checks as well, that makes me think she didn't improve her hand, so I think she's going to draw one card again. For that reason, I'm actually going to do something different and keep the 9 because a 9 high hand is actually a favorite against someone drawing one card on the final draw. And actually a Jack high hand is a favorite against a 1 card draw as well. So I will have the best hand sometimes, but I don't feel good about it when she bets 600. It's a big bet. She's risking 600 just to get 750. So I don't think I have to call too much to keep her accountable. And I don't think she would bet a queen high or a king high for value. So I'm thinking I'm beat here most of the time. Now I have king 7-7-6-3 in the small blind. 7-6-3 is decent because I have a chance to make a 7 high hand, but I am wary because there's some straight potential. I'm going to call. I'm getting a pretty good price, just needing 150. And I get a 5, which improves my hand a little bit, but there is still some straight potential. So I'm going to be careful. I pick up the 4, which makes my hand just terrible. Now, this is a case where if they had checked, I would have just gotten rid of the 6 and hoped to get an 8 or a 2, but in this case I don't know if I'm really getting the right price for that, so I fold. Now I have 8-2 on the button, and this isn't a great hand, but because I'm on the button and I have 2 low cards that can't make a straight, I'm actually going to choose to be a little bit more aggressive here. It's also worth noting that I have way more chips than the small blind and big blind, so this felt like a good time to get a little more aggressive. Drawing 3. I get a 7, which improves it a little bit. I think I'm still getting a good price to call because they drew 3 and my hand improved, so let's see what happens on the second draw. When they stand pat, that doesn't look great for me, but my hand improved and I'm getting the right price for a 3, 5, or 6, so hopefully I can get it. But I do not, and I lose that one. Now I have 7-4-2, which is a pretty strong hand, so I'm going to raise. I improved to an 8 high hand, which is nice, so I'm going to try and get more chips in the pot with this. And I'm going to stand pat. And I got lucky there that I made an 8 high hand so quickly and was able to knock someone out there. Now I get 6-3-2 in the small blind, which is a pretty good hand. I have potential to make 7 high or 8 high, so I'm going to raise it. I generally like to take a more aggressive approach rather than just calling from the small blind. I get 8-7-5-2, which is pretty good. Even though it's an 8 high draw, which is a little bit weaker, I do have 4 cards already, which makes it pretty good in my eyes. So I raise and he goes all in. I'm definitely not folding for just 300 more. And I'm just going to keep on trying for an 8 high hand. I get a pair of 8s, which definitely isn't going to work. And a pair of 7s, so unfortunately I lost that time. I've got a 2 in the big blind. This is pretty bad just having 1 low card, but I get to see the draw for free because no one raises. I do improve to 5-4-2, which is nice, but I'm still gonna play it passive because there were a couple people that already just drew 2. I think because I have a 3-card hand, I can call at least this one time and hope that my hand improves after the next draw. I get a 6, which helps my hand a little bit. Now I just need an 8 or a 7 to feel good about my hand. But A Love For You stood pat, so that makes me a little bit wary. I actually think this is close, but I'm not sure that I'm getting the right price here. If I do get an 8, I'm not really sure if I'm winning, and it's just not likely enough that I'll get a 7 for this to be worth it. Now I have 7-4 in the big blind, which isn't that great, but again, people are going to let me see a free draw. So I'm going to go for it. I get 7-6-4-2, which is pretty strong, but the other guy drew less, so I'm still going to check to him. I call. Now I improved to an 8 high, which is good. However, he stood pat, which makes me a little bit wary. It means he probably has an 8 high or 7 high hand already. So I check and he bets. And I actually chose to make a very conservative fold here. I think it's unlikely I'm going to improve to a 7 high. And I have one of the weakest 8 high hands that I could, so I gave it up there. But now I have a very strong hand again. I have a 4 card draw to a 7 high. Generally, if you have 4 low cards already, that's a spot where you can put in a 3 bet, so that's what I'm going to do here. I expect to be stronger than my opponent, even though he raised. I get a pair of 7s, and we both drew 1, so I'm going to play it passive. I get a 6, so I made my 7 high hand, which is very strong, and now I'm going to put the pressure back on. And he doesn't believe me, so I end up winning a big pot there. Now I have 8-4-3 in the big blind, which is decent. It's nice having 3 low cards right off the bat and seeing the first draw for free. And I make my 8 high hand immediately, which is nice. He raises, and again, this is a case where I'm definitely getting the right price to put 600 more in, but I'm going to put him all in instead because I don't want him to walk away with any extra if he were to lose his hand. And I don't love the fact that he's standing pat when I have a pretty weak 8 high draw, but my hand was just too strong to give up, so I chose to stand my ground, and it worked out that time. I knocked him out. And now we've reached the top 30, which is where they start giving prizes away, so I've officially made the money. 5-4-2 is a pretty good starting hand, so I'm going to play this aggressively. I don't like just calling because I don't want to let the big blind see a draw for free. I improve a little bit. So I am going to bet. I don't know that he necessarily improved, but he did draw 1, so now we're more even, it looks like. And he bets into me, which kind of makes it look like he has an 8 high or 7 high hand already. This is close, but for 1600 into 7600, I don't think I'm getting the right price for an 8 or 7. Now I have 6-4 in the big blind, which isn't that great, but they're letting me see a free draw again. I think this is a mistake on their part. People should be raising more. I get an 8, which is a slight improvement, but I'm going to be cautious. I'm actually going to fold because I don't love the 8 high hands, and it seems like the mailman probably has something good. Now there are just 22 players left in the tournament, and this is the hand that I was talking about at the beginning, where I fall down to 300 chips. I have 8-4-2, which is a pretty good start, and I'm going to raise. I don't love the fact that he's re-raising, but I'm getting a good price to call. And I make an 8-4-3-2. Again, I'm getting a right price to call since I just need one more low card. I'm hoping for a 5, 6, or 7. There's still so much left in the pot that I think it's worth it to call for the chance to get a 5, 6, or 7 again, even though most of the time I'm going to miss. I still think it was worth it. But unfortunately, this time I'm left with just 325 when the average stack right now is around 11,000. Check out part 2 where I show how I go from being hopelessly behind with 19 left to eventually making the final 4.